I wasn't planning on 2 apocalypses in a row. The end of the world? Ugh, that is so last week. But it turns out I requested Ben Marcus's The Flame Alphabet from the library a couple months ago and completely forgot about it, so here it is. For those of you who are a little more familiar with my taste in books, you might know that Ben Marcus is barking up the right tree to get my most coveted attention, because it's doing a lot of meta-thinking about language. The premise is actually a crisis of language. A word-pocalypse. The story goes that children's speech has become toxic to adults. As you can imagine, this puts our protagonist, a father himself, in quite a predicament. And later, it's not just children's language, but adults' language too. And it's not just talking, but writing and even gestures turn toxic. That whole communication thing is really at its root just pure poison. But language as a problem isn't something new to literary theory. Language is constantly a problem because it's finite. Every word just a shadow of experience, and so on. Just this week, I read an article about issues with GPS programming because of how language affects the way we understand space. Word nerds can click the link below for more information about that. But I really want to talk about what it's like to read the Flame Alphabet, because it puts you in kind of an awkward position. It actually made me feel anxious that at any moment I might start getting nauseous with language poison. It made reading feel dangerous. It's also written in first person, which means our narrator, Sam, was literally killing himself writing this book. So I felt kind of guilty. For better or worse, there is no room for a light reading experience of the Flame Alphabet. I was kind of hoping that at least the form would get a little playful as Sam starts experimenting with various alphabets, scripts, and encrypting techniques. But for a book doing so much thinking about language, the narrative style is very traditional. But perhaps this works to emphasize Sam's all-too-human limitations. For all his efforts, he's not particularly successful, either in his experiments or in his personal relationships. His nemesis in the book remarks on this often. I'm referring to the red-headed scientist, Lebov, with an E, whose name I can't help but notice closely resembles that of William Lebov, with an A. He's the linguist who founded the discipline of variationist sociolinguistics, which is basically a fancy way of saying the study of why we use different words in different situations. Whether that connection is intentional or not, the fictional Lebov is definitely interested in the right word for the right occasion, even if it's just so he can manipulate people into doing what he wants. He's particularly successful with, you guessed it, Sam, who seems to be constantly asking the wrong questions. And the more he chases answers, the more Sam oversimplifies to his own detriment. Even in this language apocalypse, his worst enemy seems to be one he truly can't escape. His own hopelessly one-track mind. But I start to wonder if that's particular to Sam or not. Is language a box we're just not capable of thinking outside of? Those are my thoughts on the Flame Alphabet, and I promise, no apocalypse next week.